A pamphlet written above a second-hand clothing shop in Boston caused Southern legislatures to pass emergency laws and order ships searched at the docks. David Walker wrote it in 1829, calling directly for enslaved people to rise up against their enslavers. By the time he died a year later, he had become one of the most feared men in the country without ever holding a weapon. David Walker was born free, around 1796, in Wilmington, North Carolina, though some sources place his birth closer to 1785, and the exact year isn't settled. His father was enslaved. His mother was free, and under the law at the time, a child's status followed the mother's. That single legal fact is what made Walker free by birth, inside a state built entirely around slavery. Being free didn't mean living apart from it. Walker grew up around enslaved people his whole childhood, and as a young man he traveled through parts of the South, seeing firsthand how the system operated from one state to the next. Those years of direct exposure shaped him early. Long before he wrote a word for publication, Walker already understood slavery as something to study and answer, not something to simply avoid. As a young man, Walker joined the AME Church in Charleston, South Carolina, immersing himself in one of the era's most active centers of Black religious and community life. By the mid-1820s, he had left the South for good and settled in Boston, where he opened a second-hand clothing store and became active in the city's free Black community. Boston gave him room to build a public life. He became a subscription agent for Freedom's Journal, the country's first Black-owned newspaper, and joined Prince Hall Freemasonry, a network of Black civic and fraternal organizations. Boston gave him what the South never could, a public platform, and enough personal safety to speak plainly about what he had witnessed. In September 1829, Walker published Walker's Appeal to the Colored Citizens of the World. Most abolitionists writing at the time argued for patience and gradual change. Walker's appeal argued for direct resistance instead, addressed straight to enslaved and free Black readers rather than to a white audience asking for sympathy. The pamphlet rejected the colonization movement outright, calling it a plan to remove Black Americans rather than free them. It directly challenged Thomas Jefferson's published claims about Black inferiority, line by line. The result was one of the most radical documents the anti-slavery movement had produced, and it began circulating almost immediately. Walker used his own clothing business to move the appeal south. He sewed copies into the linings of garments he sold to sailors bound for southern ports, trusting the pamphlet to travel exactly where his customers did. It worked. Copies began turning up in cities like Savannah and Wilmington, and local officials started writing anxious letters to each other, trying to trace where the pamphlets were coming from. A document written above a shop in Boston was now circulating hundreds of miles away, in exactly the hands Walker intended it to reach. Southern legislatures responded with new restrictions, laws limiting literacy among enslaved people, and bans on circulating, seditious, publications. Rewards were reportedly offered for Walker's capture. Less than a year after the appeal's third printing, Walker was dead, in August 1830, around age 33. The official cause was tuberculosis, the same illness that had killed his infant daughter only weeks earlier. But rumors of poisoning circulated at the time, tied to the bounties reportedly placed on him, and those rumors were never confirmed one way or the other. What's certain is the timing. A man whose writing had already put an entire region on edge was gone within a year of its final printing, and no one has ever been able to say for certain why. That's the story of one of the most radical voices to come out of early Black print in America. Next time, we're covering W.B. Du Bois, and the idea that's followed him more than any other, double consciousness.